Alright, so what's going on YouTube, man? In this video, we're going to be talking about the George, Janko, and Logan Paul, the whole Impulsive situation. I'm just going to talk about um what happened, what George exposed about Logan on his podcast with Mike, and yeah. Alright, so we're going to talk about how this initially started, which was the Bobby Lee interview. Now, if y'all didn't watch it, like actually when I heard about it, I was so confused. I was like, who is this? Low-key, I forgot Logan Paul had a podcast, but I watched it like the other day. And Bobby Lee was taking hits at George the whole episode. But George is a comedian. And Bobby knew that. So I assumed that he was trying to just see like, where he's at on the comedian scale wise, right? But then if y'all don't know, Bobby Lee had put his balls in George's face, asking him to smell them. Now, I don't know how comedians act towards each other. I don't know if this is an occurring thing, but if I'm not wrong, if I'm not mistaken, anybody putting their genitals in your face that is not your significant other is crazy. Anybody putting their genitals in your face that is not your significant other is crazy. I don't care if it's for a joke. I don't care. That's weird. Like, if I was George, I would wanted to punch him. Cause there's no way you sit here and put your balls in my face for shits and giggles. And it's like he couldn't do anything because I guarantee you, if he could have said something, Bobby or could have did something, Bobby would have never did that. He was showing out because Logan and Mike were laughing. So George couldn't do nothing but play along, to the whole joke. But I guarantee you, if that wasn't for the show, George would have sacked him. I would have. You're not putting your genitals in my face for no joke, bro. I'm trying to sit here and think, why would, and then it's not even like a friend type of thing. I don't know you. This is my first time meeting you and you're putting your genitals in my face. Now, if this was like some how y'all play and joke as friends, that's a whole different thing. But they don't know each other. That was their first time meeting and you're putting your balls in my face for shits and giggles and I'm just supposed to sit. Like, no, bro, that's weird. And then George also talks about on a podcast with Mike how the only time Bobby Lee talked to him or spoke to him is when he would turn around, grab his penis, or crack a joke about him. Now, if y'all don't know, Bobby Lee, he was like facing this way, talking to Logan and Mike the whole time. George was on the other side, and you could tell like George was just he was trying to see where he fit in this whole episode. He did not. He rarely talked. He probably talked about 5 times, bro. The whole time though, Logan and Bobby Lee was having a conversation with Logan and Mike. That's first things first, bro. Then okay, yeah, I just talked about this too. Okay. So, okay. Now if y'all don't know, y'all I'm pretty sure everybody knows though. Um George walked off the podcast after he had this I wouldn't we're gonna call it a monologue. He was talking about some stuff that happened to him because Mike had tried to include him because he was excluded from the whole conversation, the whole hour. Mike had tried to include him, and he basically had asked George a question, which which made George have this whole little 30-second monologue. And once it was over, right, Bobby Lee says, "Oh, you're done." And then Mike and Logan start laughing. So George gets upset. I guess that was the final straw that broke the camel's back. And he gets up and he walks away. And the way, and so George was talking about this also on the podcast. He said the way that y'all made that scene, y'all made it seem like I couldn't take a joke. Now George was taking brunt the whole episode. He was taking the brunt of Bobby Lee the whole episode. Couldn't do nothing, didn't really say nothing, but just laugh. He laughed it off. But y'all have to think, he didn't one, he was excluded from the conversation. The only time he was included was when Bobby Lee was touching him inappropriately. Then, y'all making jokes. And I was actually trying to have a heartfelt moment because George is a sensitive guy and y'all laugh at what I'm trying to say. I will leave too. Like, that's insensitive. I will leave too, bro. If I'm saying something that's so sentimental and emotional, and y'all Bobby Lee makes a joke and y'all laugh, and I was excluded from the whole conversation. This is the only time I really talked, and the only time I really talked, y'all want to laugh. I will leave too, bro. And then the only time this man talks to me is when he's touching me inappropriately or making a joke about me. That I will leave the whole episode too. So then, um, yeah. So then after this episode, Logan starts to basically try to force George out of Impulsive. Like he started one, they shot 3 episodes on George's birthday, so George wouldn't come. So it was like now he was excluding him from things leading up to him being fired. Like, and then like Logan was he wasn't trying to mess with George. He wasn't trying to mess with George after this. And on the episode, right? Because I got my talking points. On the episode, Mike says he calls George and he says there must have been some confusion, but the guests are supposed to talk to me and Logan, and you're really only there to be like a third person. You're really not supposed to say anything. So this is how it's all going down for George right now. He gets excluded from a whole episode. He gets bashed in front of the world. Logan made him apologize or he gets fired. And then Mike says, "Oh, you're really not supposed to talk to the guests. You're just supposed to sit there. So I'm just supposed to sit there and be pretty." I would have left Impulsive too. I would have left Impulsive too. I ain't even gonna cap to you. I would have left Impulsive too. And if y'all, I don't know if y'all watched the whole, like, it's a 27-minute clip of George and Mike talking about the whole Impulsive thing and how everything played out. If y'all watch it, right, Mike took no accountability for what he did and how he hurt George. It was always, well, yeah, like George would say, well, you did this, Mike. And Mike would be like, well, but I was there for you when nobody else was. And then when George would go and talk about Logan, Mike would defend Logan. Now, Mike is in a sticky situation, because Logan is still his co-host and his boss, and George is a friend that he wants to get back. So I see how Mike is just trying to navigate through this situation as best as he can, but still own up to what you did that hurt George's feelings. Don't sit there and deflect his feelings the whole episode, which he did. That whole time they talked about Impulsive and what went down, Mike deflected George's feelings and took no accountability for how he hurt his feelings with the whole process of him leaving Impulsive or him getting fired from Impulsive, basically. Like he literally deflected that whole 30 minutes they talked about that whole Impulsive situation. If y'all, it's like a 37-minute clip. It's actually from the podcast. If y'all want to go watch it, y'all can. So, right, okay. Another reason why George left Impulsive he got fired, but he was already thinking about leaving because it was a toxic environment for him. Logan would attack his religion. Now, if y'all don't know, George is a Christian. I believe he's a Christian. And basically, Logan would attack his religion. And during that time, Impulsive was like, I don't know if it wasn't hitting as many views. So this is how the situation go. Logan attacks George's religion, right? The show isn't doing as good. So I'm assuming Mike and George stopped getting paid. Logan was getting paid. Even if it wasn't from the show, Logan was getting paid from Prime. George says in the episode, Logan would share his $11 million, like the $11 million he makes a week, and they weren't getting paid nothing but I think 5,000. So this man is making 11 million a week. Now a good co-host, a good host, a good boss would pay his employees out of his own pocket, but not 5,000. Logan, if you're making $11 million a week, right? Like, make this make sense. I'm not saying pay them all 100 grand, but I'm saying you can at least pay them $20,000. Maybe your staff and your crew members can get paid a little less, but these are your co-hosts. Like, these are men that make your show possible. If it was just Logan on the show, I guarantee you nobody will watch it. So these are men that make your show possible, and you're telling me you can't pay them more than $5,000 and you're making $11 million a week. You can pay them more than 5,000. 5,000 in LA, and I'm assuming they got like, I wouldn't say mansions, but high living houses with, and then they have their own stuff going on. George said that he was trying to get married at that time, and you're telling me that you're only paying these men $5,000 and you're making $11 million a week. A good boss at least would have paid his co-host 20K, 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 at least 20K. Now I'm not saying go above and beyond, get them $100,000 each, but 20K is like, what? That's crazy. You're making $11 million a week, and you can only pay your co-host, the men that make your show happen, $5,000. That's crazy, bro. So George then goes to create his own show because he's not making no money. This is a toxic environment. So he goes and makes the George Janko show. And after this, right? So I think so Logan has this deal with Celsius. I think this helps because they were talking about it. This helps Logan's prime happen. Like, this is a reason why his prime is, like, I guess distribution something. Celsius and Prime is linked somehow. So when George went to go make his own show, Celsius, I'm assuming Celsius offered him a deal. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry for stuttering. My mind rolling like 100 words a minute. My mouth only spitting out 5. But because they were talking about this on the podcast, I'm assuming George gets offered a deal at Celsius. Logan says Logan was trying to control his show. Logan says Logan was trying to make the deal with Celsius not happen. And George says, look, bro, you can't control what happens on my show. And so then Logan, I guess Mike said that Logan didn't want this deal to happen because George was pulling in people from Impaulsive, and then he was gonna have the people that was already trying to watch his show, and then that would cause a competitive drive for Prime and his show. And Logan didn't want that. He didn't want anything to stop his money with Prime. So I can understand that. So George says to Logan, look, man, I will take half the deal with Celsius if you pay me a quarter of my money. I think that's like how the whole thing went down. Logan basically says, I won't pay you anything because you're here because of me. So George goes on to say, look, man, $5,000 a week ain't cutting it, or $5,000 ain't cutting it, man. I got bills to pay. I got a wedding. Logan goes to say, Well, then have your rich daddy pay for it. Have your rich daddy pay for it? You know, I had another video that I wanted to do on how the Paul brothers have, you know, evolutionized, how they have grown. But this whole situation shows me that Logan hasn't grown at all. Like Jake and Logan, I feel like from 2016, 2017, they have grown significantly. Yeah, there we go. To now, they've grown, they've matured, but it shows me that Logan hasn't really matured because again, this man is leaving because you're pushing him out of Impulsive and you're trying to fire him. So he goes and does something to provide for himself and his family, and you go and block a deal that can make him a lot of money and then say you won't pay him a dime because you made him? What what type of That's crazy, bro. Like that is so crazy. Logan is a toxic man. Logan is toxic, bro. I'm surprised Mike still. Yeah, that's so crazy to me, bro. Like, nah, bro. I ain't even. That's crazy. Like, that's really crazy. You're paying me $5,000 a week. I try to get a deal that's gonna make me a lot of money from my show, and you said you can't take the deal. Okay, then I say, okay, I'll take half of the deal if you pay me some money. I'm not gonna pay you anything. I made you. If you need some money, have your daddy send you some. I'm glad George got out of that environment. Mike, own up to your stuff, take accountability. I see the situation that you're in, but you need to own up, take accountability for what you did to hurt him. Yeah, man, I don't even know what to say about this whole situation no more, bro. It's been Bree. I'm out.